Welcome to EFT Nation, your home for all things tapping. For show notes and resources, please visit EFTtappingtraining.com. We are your tapping hosts. I'm Alina Frank.
And I'm Craig Wiener. The information provided in this podcast is not a substitute for counseling or medical advice. The information presented here is meant to inspire and educate listeners, but are not guarantees of any kind.
All right, so we just finished doing a Facebook Live and Zoom webinar, which was really interesting to us. It's great. We did even a couple of exercises that you can find very helpful during this time. By going to YouTube, you can find it. It's like EFT for COVID fears. But one of the things that we did during that talk was launch a poll. And the poll indicated that most people are worried more about finances and financial instability right now than they are of actually COVID and their health. And so we thought we would devote a podcast just on financial fears and give you an exercise that you can do to help yourself right away.
So we're finding, people, when you say financial fears or financial stresses regarding, the pandemic and what's happening, day by day, we're seeing businesses close, states shut down, quarantines happen. Day by day, changes are coming out. We're hearing from our guardians, the stock market, the markets, the businesses, so many things are happening. But on a very personal level, it hits so many of us very personally, very deeply. I mean, we're seeing things like fear of loss of income, right? Because people are losing hours, people are losing jobs, people are losing clients, people's businesses are shutting down, and we don't know for how long. So we're seeing fear of, okay, will I be rehired, and when will that be? When will I next get income? For entrepreneurs and small businesses, will I actually be able to keep my doors open, and for how long? We're seeing fears of having to let go of employees and responsibility for people that have employees. Fear of going on unemployment and whether that'll cover the costs. Fear of loss of survival and food, loss of mortgage ability. How long can I hang out before I can not pay my mortgage anymore? Or rent. And what about foreclosure? What about eviction? Okay, so all of these things are showing up, and especially the unknowns, because how long is this going to last? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Is it 6 months? We're seeing the stock market just be insane right now, and the swings and the drops. And there's so much fear and survival fear regarding loss of savings, loss of retirement income. Will I have to go into debt and credit card debt and loans and second loans on my house? And all of these circumstances are happening for different people in different ways, right?
Yep.
So we're just seeing people, of course, they're in survival mode stress. And the emotions that they're having, it varies on the circumstances and the person.
Yeah.
I mean, fear is obvious, right? So we're
Right.
seeing fear. We're seeing worry, anxiety. It's overwhelming. There are feelings of depression. There's frustration and anger at outside sources. So many things are happening.
And there's our mascot, BB, who is trying to scratch through her way through the couch. I don't know why.
Maybe she's angry.
Maybe she's angry.
Maybe she's frustrated and, feeling quarantined and not able to get out so much. And, don't know how it's affecting her either. But,
Well, she's picking up on our stress for sure.
Sure.
And so we're trying to stay calm, and EFT is one really good way of doing that.
Yeah.
And so we are talking not only about the emotions that are stirred up and the specific things that are bringing up all these negative emotions, but let's talk about, if we go one layer deeper than just what we're feeling in the moment, we can uncover that there are some beliefs that are connected with financial challenges, blocks, and fears, and all of that.
Sure.
So let's talk about some of those.
Yeah. I mean, what I want to say is whatever's happening in the moment, and this is a big one, right? Let's no doubt. So whatever you're feeling and whatever fears and worries and anxieties and angers and emotions that you're feeling about the current situation is certainly warranted and reasonable and understandable. But what is the real magnifier?
Well, I guess it just, yeah, I guess it depends on your belief. Like I feel relatively calm, but I know that if this had hit me maybe before I had done all my work, my self work and working with others on my beliefs, then certainly it would have been ramped up. So
So what do you
what are
mean?
some of
Yeah,
those
what are some
limiting
of the beliefs?
beliefs?
Okay. So we just, it's as many as there are people, but we just came up with the top few that we're noticing and saying. And a big one that's showing up there is the belief that I don't have any control over the situation.
Right.
That other is doing it to me. And whether that other is the government, whether that other is federal, state, the virus,
The virus, yeah.
right, public
Yeah.
health, my city, there's something about a feeling of I don't have any control over this that's creating any kind of feeling that is, whether it's helpless or anger, whatever emotions you're feeling that are tappable.
That was a big one for me. I think when I was at my most financially broke, I really feel like that was a key one for me, that I blamed everyone else for my situation. And when I really worked on that and owning that part of it was my own mindset, I was able to really flip things around. So but that's it. But you just have to acknowledge that it's there.
Right. And the beliefs are often, this is the thing about powerful, especially what we call core beliefs, if they weren't formed in the moment. The reason that things get heightened and magnified in the moment, not that they're not valid in the current situation, but they get exacerbated and increased and they spiral upwards because often these beliefs are childhood beliefs.
Right.
Right? So the beliefs often come from, I don't have any control over the situation. And you might think, an obvious place that somebody might have a belief given the current situation is maybe somebody grew up in a family in which there were real financial concerns and hardships.
Yep.
Right? And so therefore I had them as a child. They were embedded in my nervous system. They're coming back right now, even further magnified. But what I also want to say is the current feeling of lack control over the financial situation and how it's impacting you that way might have come from times of lack of control that didn't have to do with money.
Right, absolutely.
So, times, for example, maybe if you were a kid and your parents were splitting up and divorcing and you felt like you had no control over that situation.
Right.
And it felt the same way as it's feeling now as a lack of control, even though it didn't begin in a root of a financial situation. Or maybe you lived in a family or a military family or whatever, just a family that moved so many times when you were a child.
Right.
And you felt that no matter what you wanted, you didn't have a say and you didn't have any control over that situation. And the same feelings are showing up in the current financial stress, and it's exacerbating what you're feeling now. So working with EFT to get to the roots of not only the current anger, frustration, helplessness, all etc., but also starting to work on and use EFT to tap on those childhood or earlier times where those beliefs got created.
Sure. And oftentimes those are really hard to discover on your own.
Right.
So we recommend for like the deeper layers of all of this that's happening, please think about working with a really good skilled practitioner. So number 2 is, I don't have enough. I don't have enough. There's not enough. I don't have enough. So right now for people, what I'm hearing is, I don't have enough saved. I'm not going to make it. And all the different variations and flavors of that and what that looks like for you. I see that coming up a lot. So I don't have enough could be absolutely that you're looking at your 401k and saying, I don't have enough to retire because of what's happened in the stock market.
Lost 20-30% in this drop. And it's like, what's that going to mean about, I was expecting to retire in 3 to 5 years, and now who knows?
And that could be, I didn't have enough when I was growing up. And it could be, when I was, I'm just thinking about a client that I've gotten permission to discuss some details about. So let's say that you asked for a Barbie and you didn't get it that Christmas because your family just didn't have enough money. Well, that feeling of lack could actually be contributing to how you're feeling today. So it doesn't, we think of these things as, oh, there must be some big, deep, dark drama back there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. It was just emotionally potent at the time. and it embedded itself into your psyche, and so it's just being stirred up by what's happening currently.
Yeah, and I just want to keep reemphasizing that the current situation, of course, it's fear-inducing, and of course, it's unknown. So you have every right to have the feelings that you feel about it. But what we don't often recognize is how much of this is like a pre-installed program that's been there for years or decades.
Right.
That's just, this is the current rendition of it.
Right.
And so not only can we tap and reduce even some of the unknown, some of the intensity of what we're feeling right now, maybe not have it go away completely because it's still ongoing and unveiling itself every day. But when we take out the bigger part of the iceberg of where it began, it can make a big difference in the resilience that we're having in the current moment. Mm-hmm. So we came up with a third one that we're hearing a lot, and that's the idea of, you know what? In my life, just when things are starting to get better for me, it's like the rug gets pulled out from under me. Mm-hmm. So you know what? I had just gotten a nice increase in wage. I actually finally was starting to put something in the stock market, and it had a great year. So there were like these financial positives that were being felt in the last year or two or three.
Right.
And all of a sudden now, boom, market is like right back to the beginning of where it was. All the positives were erased, all those kinds of feelings and there it is again. Every time it starts getting good, every time I start feeling like I'm getting ahead, boom.
Now, I'll give you an example of where I've seen that in the past is if you had a parent who had maybe some mental health issues, maybe some drinking or substance abuse. If you had a parent like that, then of course you would be feeling this way of things are good one day, things are horrible the next day. I've got to be super vigilant about how those things external from me, including my parent, how are they doing? And I need to change and adapt and somehow be prepared for the absolute worst, because I just never know what parent's going to show up, the good side or the bad side of my parent who is dealing with mental health issues or, an alcoholic, things like that. So, yeah, absolutely. All these things have roots. Now, we're going to go through a technique that isn't meant to resolve the actual events from your childhood. And actually, it might not even resolve how you're feeling right now about any particular situation, but it's, again, a really good regulating technique that you can self-apply in a pinch, even if you aren't sure what's going on for you, even if you can't name it or articulate it. It's one of the 3 core gentle techniques that we use in our trainings that we teach. And so we have like a group of techniques that we use we have a group of techniques for big T traumas. We have a group of techniques for small T traumas and negative experiences in your past. We have another way of differentiating one versus the other. We have techniques that are for really bringing something up to the fore, associating and really working with it directly. And then we have a whole set of techniques that we teach that are all about distancing and containing. So I would say that this is one that is safe to use. And again, of course, if you have a huge history of trauma, then we suggest maybe try it. If it brings things up, please seek the help of a skilled practitioner. But this is called Chasing the Pain, and it's basically about, what am I feeling right now in my body? I know I'm off. I know I'm stirred up, but I'm feeling something in my body. So I want you to just think about what's happening currently, maybe a theme around money. And when you think about maybe your money picture right now, do you have any sensations in your body? And all we're going to focus on is the sensation in your body. So Craig, what sensation do you have in your body?
Okay, so right now,
And don't even say what you're thinking about.
I know what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And if I don't name the emotion, but I name
no emotion. This is Chasing the Pain. We don't add emotion.
So in other words, right now I would say, I feel like I can't get a full breath. It feels, It feels like contracted and tight in my solar plexus.
Okay, so we're looking for body location.
Right.
You feel tightness and the sensation, not the emotion. The body sensation is tightness in your solar plexus.
Yeah, it feels tight and contracted in my solar plexus. It's like this band that goes under my rib cage. It's
Okay, so a band under your rib cage.
right.
And does it have any weight or color or temperature? It might not have any of those things, but it's good for just tracking how well you're doing. If you are experiencing some of those things, the more descriptive you can get, the better. So a band.
Yeah, it's like a tight squeezing band, and I feel it like under my rib cage
Under
and
your rib
across
cage.
my solar plexus in front.
Okay.
And it feels. I mean, it
Is
feels
that
like it's like a belt.
Okay, so that's great.
It's like a black belt,
Okay.
a wide black belt.
Again, notice no emotion. We're doing this as a distancing technique. So, Craig, give it a level of sensation. 0 to 10, how strong is that sensation?
Yeah, like right now, it's like a good 7.
Great. So repeat after me, tapping on the side of the hand.
Okay.
And of course, you've washed your hands.
Absolutely. I've washed my hands for a good 20 seconds vigorously.
Okay. So even though I feel this really tight band and belt
I feel this really tight band and belt
around my solar plexus,
around my solar plexus.
it's like a black belt.
It's like a black belt.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this tight band,
Even though I feel this tight band,
it's like a black belt
it's like a wide black belt
in my solar plexus.
across my solar plexus.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this tight band,
Even though I feel this tight band,
it's like a wide black belt
it's like a wide black belt
across my solar plexus.
across my solar plexus.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
All right, let's tap at the top of the head. This tight black belt.
This tight black belt.
Okay, let's just practice doing it the way that we're doing it now these days. By avoiding touching the face. Let's do collarbone. This tight black belt.
This tight black belt.
Let's do under the arm. This tight black belt in my solar plexus.
This tight black belt in my solar plexus.
Under the breasts. This wide black belt in my solar plexus.
This wide black belt under my solar plexus.
Wrists. This tight black band in my solar plexus.
Good. So one wrist against the other wrist. This tight wide black belt across my solar plexus.
Okay. And then we go back and check 0 to 10. How strong is that sensation?
Yeah. Well, it's like I can breathe a little bit easier. So I would say the belt is thinner now.
Right?
It's black, but maybe it's more like grayish, so it's not as black. I can get more breath, and it's not as tight. It's less tight. It's not as squeezing as much.
Okay. So even though there's this tight gray band
Good. So tapping on the side of my hand, there's this tight gray band
around my solar plexus,
around my solar plexus.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this tight gray band
Even though I feel this tight gray band
around my solar plexus,
around my solar plexus,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
One more time at the side of the hand. Even though
Even though
there's this tight band,
there's this tight band.
not as tight as it was before,
It's not as tight as it was before.
and it's gray now,
And it's gray now.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Good. Let's go at the top of the head. This gray band.
This gray band.
Let's go to the collarbone. This gray band across my solar plexus.
This gray band across my solar plexus, that's not so wide.
Okay. Under the breasts. This gray tight band, not as tight as it was before.
This band across my solar plexus, it's gray and it's not as tight as it was, so I can breathe easier.
Under the arm. This tight gray band across my solar plexus.
This tight gray band, not quite as tight, and it's across my solar plexus.
Okay. Wrist. This tight gray band, not as tight as it was before, across my solar
This
plexus.
tight gray band, not as tight as it was before, across my solar plexus.
Okay. 0 to 10.
Okay. Yeah. That actually feels much better. I mean,
Great.
it's like a 1 or 2 now. I can
Okay.
actually take a much fuller breath.
So, why do we call this technique chasing the pain? Because We really should call it chasing the sensation, because it doesn't necessarily have to be pain. It's just a sensation that you're noticing in your body. And then you change the wording with every round according to what is so, how it's changed. So it could have been from a tight gray band. Next round could be a soft gray band in the back of my neck. It might not even be in the same place anymore. So just notice where it has shifted to, and then give it a suds 0 to 10, and then adapt your tapping round to accurately describe the body sensation. And you try to work it until it gets to a 0, and you're going to feel more regulated, more present, more relaxed.
And you know, we started this with talking about all the financial fears and worries and concerns and stresses that are going on. It's very hard to have these kinds of emotional stressors and not have it affect your body. Right. So while we're going to be doing some upcoming shows on coronavirus and your health, and on quarantine and isolation stress, and on family stresses, but on financial stress, we're just looking right now at one way of working with how it's impacting you, how you're embodying it. And if we can release it from the body, we can start to release it on energetic and emotional levels, and start to be more regulated and be able to handle it in a more regulated way, in a more balanced way, even though we're still having those stressors.
Right. And when it comes to financial stress, I think that you want to be in that regulated state so that you can make clear and wise decisions. Because I've seen people freaking out.
Oh my goodness.
That are ready to sell everything and drop everything.
Right, and sell everything in the market at the lowest point, or all of a sudden make a financial decision, and it's just...
Right, it's not a good place.
They're not making the clearest decisions because they're not in that regulated state. So you know what? This is what needs to happen right here.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Stay healthy, stay prosperous.
And we'll see you the next time on coronavirus and fears about health. Thanks for joining us today at EFT Nation. And remember that you can find show notes and previous efttappingtraining.com.